Hello kids, welcome back to the Letico Tech channel. In this session, we are going to move to the cat and the rock to do more coding. In the previous sessions, we were able to get the button, we get our sprite, we were able to code the button to start the game, and we were able to code the left, up and right buttons, and we're able to put more costumes on the cat. So if we click on this, the button goes off. Okay, so in these sessions we are going to look at how to code the cat. So let's get started. Now, when the button is clicked, it sends a signal to the cat. In fact, it sends a signal to all the other sprites to start. So we go to events, and then we select when I receive start. That was the signal sent from the button for the cat to start the game. So when I receive start, okay, we want the cat to always be here whenever we start the game. Okay, so what we'll do is we go to looks, and then let it be, go to front. This will make sure that the cat is on the screen, it doesn't go behind. Okay, then we go to motion and take go to. Currently this is the location of the cat, and that gives us -144 and 34, so you can see it down there. Then we want it to move. If it is facing the right, it should continue facing there. The eye should be facing the right. If it is facing the left, it should also look at the left. So to do that, you go to set rotation style to left and right. That's where it can move left and right. The next thing is to let it loop over the walking. So we put forever here. Now what we need to do is that we put the first condition here. We are going to do something for the right. So if they go to operators and put an equal sign here. Now if, let's go to variable, if we click on move right, and the move right gives a signal of 1. Remember when we went to move right, we said that move right, if we touch the mouse, it should be 1. So if we really touch the mouse and the move right is 1, then we want the sprite to point in a direction that is move forward, facing this direction. If you click here, you realize that it is facing this direction. It shouldn't go to the left direction. And then start moving 10 steps. Okay, so that is what we want to do. We also want it to show, let me show you something. Let me click on this and then you see. So I'm going to click on that. We've not done the left yet. We've not done the left yet. Okay, we've not done the left, so we're going to continue from here. So if you observe also, it is moving like a stiff. It doesn't look like a real animal walking. So what we'll do is to go to looks and take next costume and put it down here. Now when we do that, it will be switching over. So back to the cat. Right, now we're going to do the same code for the left. Okay, so to do that, like I showed you earlier on how to make sort of the coding easier, we are going to repeat the same code here, but this time it is going to move left. So what I can do is to put it on top of this if. So the whole of this code is for the right button. So since I'm repeating, I'll just right click, duplicate, and put it down here. Okay, down here, and then I'm moving this off. Then I go to variable and take move left and fix it here. But the direction shouldn't be here, so you rotate this to face the left. Okay, so let's look at that one also. So let's start it. And then we'll go. this is how the cat will start moving from left to right. Now what we need to do, and this is for the up button, we need to do some more complex coding here. Okay, so I can repeat the same thing, but we'll add more to this. So I'll right click and duplicate this and put it here. Then we'll move this and change it to up. Now there are some conditions that we are going to consider here. It's not going to look like this one. Okay, so what we do need to do is that if the signal shows that the cat has to move to the up, it will point in any direction. We might leave the direction as usual. I'm going to take this off and then we work on the up. So first of all, there will be a condition. If the direction, if the cat is facing here, then we want the cat to turn and face. If the cat is facing to the left, we want it to turn to the right whilst jumping. Okay, so I'll go to control and say if then else. Before we do that, let me just show you how the up works. If move up is 1, then this one, it'll have, let's take this off, we don't need it. We will use repeat 10, put it here, and then we will say, remember this is the X and Y axis, left to right, and up and down is the Y axis. So what we'll do is to change Y by a certain number. Okay, change it by 10, and then we move a certain steps. Maybe we can move 10 steps higher. Okay, now the opposite is this, the same way. So if it goes up, if the Y changes to 10, it should come down a -10. So if I'm going up, it's a positive. If I'm coming down, it's negative. So if it jumps, it should come down. And whilst it jumps, it has to move a bit forward so it can, go over this. So let's move the steps to maybe 5. Okay, so let me show you how that works. Also, you click on this. So you can see that it jumps up and right. Okay, we might also want to add something here. Okay, but let's stick to this one. So what I want us to do is to polish this one. The direction. You realize that if it is but what I want us to do is that anytime it's going to jump, since the rocks are coming from the right to the left, the eye should be facing the right so it can see and jump. You know, you can't turn your back and jump over something. Okay, so that is what we're going to do. So we are going to put this code inside this. Okay, so first of all, if the sprite is jumping, it should face the right direction before jumping over the obstacle. So we are going to use point in direction. So if now put the equal sign here. So if go to motion and take the direction. So if the direction, okay, is negative 90. That means if it is facing to the left, that's the direction of to the left, that's negative 90. Then we want it to rather point to 90 degrees. Okay, it should point the other way around, and then do the jumping. Okay, else it should just do the jumping. So I'm repeating it here. So this is why the code is too long here. So if it is pointing to the negative direction, that is the left direction, it should go to the right direction and jump, else it should just continue jumping. So I'll put that one down here. So let me reduce this bit so we can see that it's a little bit longer, but hope you can see it. Alright, so let me play this and you see. So play. Now one thing we can do to make it nicer is that when it jumps, we want it to say something like, you know, when you are jumping, you make some sound to show that you are using your strength. So we can play just a sound, but this one is not until end. We just put a sound. So that will be under the repeat, and then let's get the sound. So go to sound, and then I'll just use hey. Hey. So when it's jumping, it will just say hey. So I'll change the meow to hey. Let me maximize it so you see where I placed it. So if after the repeat, the last repeat, then you can put the sound over there. So the same sound can be placed here. So duplicate and put it under this. So whenever it is jumping, it will say hey. 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 Alright, so that is how we want it to look like. Okay. Alright. Now, one thing we can do is that, remember our backdrop? We have two backdrops here. Now, anytime it touches this edge, we want it to switch from this to this. Okay? From this to this. Right. So, let's go back to the kit. Reduce this. So, when it starts as so we can also repeat the code here. Go to events. When I receive start, and we are going to loop it, so go to control and take forever. Okay, so and then put if then else inside. If, let's put operator, if this is an X position, if the position that it is greater than, so let me put motion, if X position is greater than let's say 185, that is this, let's assume it's 180, but we added 5, so if it is greater, that is if it touches this edge, then we go to looks, switch backdrop to backdrop 2, okay, and then send a message. So we broadcast another message called new message, we call it next. So it's going to broadcast that message, and then next we'll go and let the backdrop also change. So in this we will go to the backdrop and do that code. Now one thing we need to add also is that when the next is broadcast, okay, let's see this, we can use only if then. So I'll go back to control and just use if then, no else statement. So I'm just transferring this code back here. Okay, now it will broadcast the next. So let's go to the backdrop here. Now the backdrop will also receive a signal. So we will say when we start the game. So here, when clicked, when we start the game, we want the backdrop, switch backdrop to the first one. It should be the first backdrop one. So that's it when we start. But when also you receive start, it should be the same backdrop. Okay, but when it receives next, then it should change it to backdrop 2. So let's try that and see. Alright, so that is the code for the backdrop. So we are still on the cut what do you call it? We are still on the cut, okay? Right. So let's see what the cut will do next. All right. So we can also we'll come back to the cut in the next video so that we can indicate when the score is going to be 0 and what will happen if it's going to be game over or not. But what we need to do is that the last code for the cut is to see if it touches the rock, then the score should be set to 0. Remember we set the score here to be 0. So when it touches the rock, then we want the score to reduce, else the score should increase. So that is what we're going to do next. So we will use the same when I receive start. No, not a new message. When I receive start, and then we loop it, which is forever. We loop it. Okay, now we put if then else. We go to control, if then else here. Now we could take go to sensing. If touching, take touching mouse pointer. You can change here to rocks. So if it is touching the rocks, we go to variable. We're going to change this to score. We are going to reduce the score by a value, maybe -3. Okay, and maybe play a sound like it hits something. So we can go to sound and play sound. Let's go to sounds, and then we get a sound here. Maybe we can have a sound of a cat, like meow. Meow. Is that this way? Yeah. Let's see. So I'll take this. So we change this to meow too. So if it touches the rock, it should make a sound meow. Else, it should change. Let's go to variable, the score, change the score to 1 by 1. Okay, so if we do that, I'll come back to the score and do something. Let's try this and see. So when I start the score, just keep moving faster. So what we do is that we have to let the score weight move slowly. So we can take weight 1.5 seconds before changing the scores. So let's start. When it touches the score, something has to happen. I mean, if the score becomes 0, then something has to happen. Okay, so we can just end that part here. We can also add it down here. Yeah, you can go down here and add it. Okay. We can say if. Then you go to operators and put less than. Then you go to variable and take score. So if the score is less than 0, it's going to a negative number. We are going to send a message. We can broadcast a message called game over. This will help us to broadcast a backdrop that says game over. And then we stop all. Under control, we stop all. So it will broadcast it and say that. Now, if we start the game and then the score shows negative, we can also broadcast game over. So on this note, I'll just add one put event when clicked, and then put forever also here. Just repeating the same code that is here, if then, so that when we start the game, maybe you play the game and you ended in a negative value, which is less than 0, and when you start, it's in fact, when you start the game, it will send everything to 0. So you can leave this block out in the whole of this. Let me just take all this out here. Alright, so when the score is less than 0, it will be game over. Okay, now when it is game over, we need to add one backdrop. So let's go to backdrop, and here I can add one. I just pick this one here. Or let's delete this. Let's use this one. Or use this. Then take the text, make it red color, click here and type game over. Okay, take the select tool, make it bigger, fit in. Okay, so we have it here. So we call this game over. Game over. So that is the game over backdrop. So with the game over backdrop, when we go to the backdrops here, when I receive game over, then we will switch the backdrop to game over backdrop. Are you getting it? So let's play this and see. So I've just detected something. I want us to just correct that one before we go on. Now, when you start the game, we need the sprite to face the the right direction, not the left direction. So to do that, so when let's go to the cut and see where we can place this that code there. A lot of codes under the cut, but we can just, so when we click the game, let's go to event. When we click the game and start the game, and then we put if then here, put equal sign here, then go to motion, put your direction there, that is the direction. If it is facing negative 90, that is the left, okay, we want it to move to point to the 90 degree. Okay, you can even put it this way: when I receive start, start, then let's repeat this one down here. The same thing when we start the game or when we click the game, it should always face the right direction. So game over, and that's it, everything stops. Alright kids, that will do it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. Keep practicing to improve your skills. Bye for now.